Anyway, it took me a long time to figure all this stuff out, but I finally still learning. Man, seems like trial and error constantly. All right, so we're gonna dive into the Bible here. All right, Exodus chapter 32. Right. All right. Let's see what we got here. Okay. So here we go. Moses failed to come down the mountain right away. The people went to Aaron. "Look," they said, "make us some gods who can lead us. This man Moses, who brought us here from Egypt, has disappeared. We don't know what has happened to him." So Aaron said, "Tell your wives and sons." So right here they didn't want to wait. I mean, obviously says when Moses failed to come back, he's at the mountain. He's probably at the mountain a long time, right? They were like, "What's going on? We don't know where he's at." So Aaron said, "Tell your wives and sons and your daughters to take off their golden rings and then bring them to me." All the people obeyed Aaron and brought him their gold earrings. Then Aaron took the gold, melted it down, and molded it, and toiled it into the shape of a calf. The people exclaimed, "O Israel, these are the gods who brought you out of Egypt." So to give you some history, if you've never read the Bible before, so the story of Passover where God sent the plagues, and the plagues were sent because the Egyptians wouldn't let the Israelites go. As Moses raised his staff and parted the sea, so okay. All people obeyed Aaron, brought him gold earrings. Okay, then he took. All right. So then it says, when Aaron saw how excited the people were about it, he built an altar. So it's, Aaron was excited about it. So he built an altar in front of the calf and announced, "Tomorrow there will be a festival to the Lord." Isn't this interesting? So the people got up early the next morning, sacrificed burnt offerings and peace offerings. After this, they celebrated with feasting and drinking, and indulged in themselves and pagan rivals. Then the Lord told Moses, "Quick, go down to the mountain. The people you brought from Egypt have defiled themselves. They have already turned from the way I commanded them to live. They've made an idol shaped like a calf, and have worshipped and sacrificed to it. They're saying these are gods, O Israel, who brought you out of Egypt." Now here's the interesting thing. Aaron, his heart was build an altar in front of the calf and announce, "Tomorrow there will be a festival to the Lord." So Aaron's heart was like, we're going to make a calf here, but this is for God. So, very interesting. Go down the mountain, the people you brought from me, right? Okay, then the Lord said, "I have seen..." And the Lord said, what does it say? The Lord, people you brought from Egypt themselves have already defiled. Okay. And then the Lord said, "I've seen how stubborn and rebellious these people are. Now leave me alone so my anger can blaze against them and destroy them all. And I will make you, Moses, into a great nation instead of them." So God was really upset because God's like, listen, because there's a commandment that says, you shall not worship. Let's see if we can find it. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay. It Ten Commandments, Exodus chapter 20. I am the Lord your God who rescued you from slavery. Do not worship any other gods besides me. Right? Do not make idols of any kind, whether in shape of birds or animals or fish. You must never worship or bow down to them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God who will not share your affection with any other god. Do not leave unpunished the sins of those who hate me. But I punish the children for the sins of their parents, the third and fourth generation. But I lavish my love on those who love me and obey my commands, even for 1,000 generations. So it says, a jealous God. So then it says, who will not share your affection with any other god. I do not leave unpunished the sins of those who hate me. But I punish the children for the sins of their parents. So God is just upset here because he's like, listen, I brought you out of Egypt. I gave you a commandment. You guys are like just totally worshiping a calf. But Aaron, his heart, this is so amazing. His heart, tomorrow there will be a festival to the Lord. So Aaron is like, we're going to make the calf, but the calf is kind of going to represent God because, this is just my interpretation. Because maybe Aaron wanted something. It just seems our humanity wants something to hold on to, like I want to hold on to, hold on to this color shirt because I like the color. I'm just using an example. That's just my interpretation. So here's God's really upset, right? So then the Lord said, I've seen how stubborn and rebellious these people are. Now leave me alone. My anger can blaze. Right? God's pissed. Blaze against them and destroy them all. Then I will make you, Moses, into a great nation instead of them. But Moses pleaded with the Lord, his God, not to do it. Oh Lord, he exclaimed, why are you so angry with your own people, whom you brought from the land of Egypt with such great power and mighty acts? The Egyptians will say, God tricked them into coming to the mountains so he could kill them. So here we go. The Egyptians will say, God tricked them into coming to the mountains so he could kill them and wipe them from the face of the earth. Turn away from your fierce anger. Change your mind about this terrible disaster you are planning against your people. Remember your covenant with your servants Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You swore by your own self, I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars of heaven. Yes, I will give them all this land that I promised your descendants, and they will possess it forever. So the Lord withdrew his threat. He didn't bring against his people a disaster he had threatened. So I think it's interesting that we can look at this kind of tribal mentality, if you will, because it's like we preach as people that believe in Jesus Christ as God. We preach that God is love. So if God is love, why is he destroying? Destroying. And as we read the story, I'm going to continue to read the stories. But here's the question that I want to have people think about: why would God kill even Egyptians, for example? Even Egyptians, that's what I don't seem to understand. Because if you think about it, they were slaves. They were in slavery, right? And since they're in slavery, their man was oppressing them, so they prayed to God. They said, God, listen, we need a deliverer. Moses was born, right? So here we have Moses, right? So we have Moses, and because they needed a deliverer. So Moses came, and then Moses said, we'll bring you out. So here's the thing, so I take a drink of water, my throat's dry, excuse me. So you got Moses saving the people, and everything, and coming out and doing that. But here you have to remember that I've seen this movie, 12 Years a Slave. And this guy got sold into slavery. And he prayed to God, and I think he did. I don't really remember the movie, but there was an opportunity that, he's like, he's like, look, I gotta get out of here. And there was a worker was working on something, and this guy had the power to write him a letter and get people to come to rescue him. And it worked out that way. But my point is, here's my point. My point is that this guy desired for freedom. He desired to be free. He desired to do something, right? So the slave owner was upset because he's like, my slave, and so there was control involved. So when there's a loss, there's control. Loss, there's control. It seems like that's how that works, right? Because here we look back at when Moses parted the Red Sea. The sea closed up on the Egyptians, chasing the Israelites to kill them because, again, so freedom, control, let's kill the Egyptians so the Israelites can go on. So now we think about this, right? Now look at this, that's not fair. How can God do such a thing? Why did God kill the Egyptians? There's favoritism. So you got to think about it for a second, right? If God is God, which God is God, my human mind is not really going to understand a whole lot of things about God, because God is God. I can't answer these questions. I'll be honest with you. Why? I don't know. All I can say, God is God. He decided to do that, right? So then we read on, right? Turn away from your fierce anger. So God changed his mind. It sounds almost like a human, right? Because humans change our minds, right? Here God changed his mind, right? Yes, I will give them to all their lands, promise to your descendants, and they will possess. So then God says, this stuff, right? Then Moses turned and went down to the mountains. He held in his hands the 2 stone tablets, inscribed the terms of the covenant. They were inscribed on both sides, front and back. These stone tablets were God's work. The words on them were written by God himself. When Joshua heard the noise of the people shouted below them, he exclaimed to Moses, It sounds like there's a war in the camp. But Moses replied, No, it's neither a cry of victory nor a cry of defeat. It sounds like a celebration. When they came near the camp, Moses saw the calf and the dancing. In terrible anger, he threw the stone tablets to the ground, smashed them at the foot of the mountain. He took the calf they made and melted it in the fire. And when the metal had cooled, he ground to a powder, mixed it with water, then he made the people drink it. That sounds really kind of harsh and controlling, and it's like, how dare you worship this calf? We're going to do this to you, and we're going to make you drink this, and that's the way it is, and that's it. And that's the kind of tonality of this whole context has. As we read on, it says, after that he turned to Aaron. Moses turned to Aaron. What did the people do to you? He demanded. How did they ever make you bring such terrible sin upon them, right? So this whole fear, like, oh my God, you brought sin, let's cleanse the area, right? Don't get upset, sir, Aaron replied. You yourself know these people and what wicked bunch they are. So Aaron has a judgment that they're wicked, right? But then you think about it, them being wicked. Okay, if they're wicked, right? But then Aaron also, he agreed to make the calf, but Aaron's heart was like to the Lord's, right? Because we'll worship the Lord, and you have this judgment. These people are wicked because they're not wanting to wait for the Lord or for Moses to come down for the message. They just want to build a calf, so they were being impatient, and so that had something to play into it. But it seems like when we as people that are impatient, and see, it seems like we're the only ones that ends up hurting ourselves. You know, seems that way, right? So, or we don't have peace about things because we're always thinking about the next thing. So it says, "Don't get upset, sir," Aaron replied. "And you yourself know these people and what a wicked bunch they are. They said to me, 'Make us some gods to lead us.'" So here Aaron's telling them what happened, right? "For something had happened to this man, Moses, who led us out of Egypt. So I told them, 'Bring me your gold earrings,' and they brought them to me. I threw them in the fire, and out came his calf." When Moses saw that Aaron had let the people get completely out of control, and much of the amusement of their enemies, he stood at the entrance to the camp and shouted, So here we go. All of you who are on the Lord's side, come over here and join me." And all the Levites came. He told them, this is how upset I personally get with this stuff, because this stuff just is nuts. I disagree with this. I find this disgusting. I find this abomination for who God is. This is gross. This shouldn't even be written. This is just totally messed up. I'm going to read this. God have mercy. It says this. "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel," this said, "He stood at the entrance to the camp and shouted, 'All who are on the Lord's side, come over here.' And the Levites came. He told them," this is Moses, "'This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Strap on your swords, go back and forth from one end of the camp to the other, killing even your brothers, friends, and neighbors.' The Levites obeyed Moses, and about 3,000 people died that day. 3,000 because they just decided to be impatient. They didn't know when Moses was going to get back. And, they didn't have any idea. So they didn't want to wait. They wanted to have some fun. Decided to worship a calf. And so for that, 3,000 people died that day. That is crazy. But before that, then Moses had them drink. Thank God they didn't die. Maybe some people, it's not reported in here, but I'm sure if you drink melted stuff, metal, you're going to die. Then Moses told the Levites, "Today you have been ordained for the service of the Lord, for you obeyed him, even though it meant killing your own sons and brothers. Because of this, he will now give you a great blessing." Guys, I don't know about you, but this is insane. This is insane. This almost sounds like, in a way, I'm just going to say it, almost like sacrifice, almost sounds like a paganism kind of thing. Here Moses is getting in trouble about, but some pagans believe they have to sacrifice a certain thing to a god to get a blessing. Okay. This is straight up disgusting. I don't know what else to say about this, but this disturbs me. I read it yesterday. I was upset about it the whole day. I knew it was in the Bible somewhere, but I just wanted to find it. I wanted to share it on YouTube because for me, guys, this doesn't sit well for me, because I believe in Jesus as my Lord and Savior, and and I personally, just to, it's beyond me that that this kind of thing even is happening. And then what upsets me about it also is that as you read in the Bible, and I think, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, comment on my page, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there is a where people like Jericho go overtake the city. Like, I think there is Sodom and Gomorrah, kill people. What is that, man? And so I really believe, making this kind of thing, I think my interpretation is like this. I think that the people that thought that was God was the culture that made it okay and said it was God. Because let's think about it for a sec. Christians today, I don't know about anybody, and I'm not talking about people being in war that believe in God. I'm talking people that are not fighting in war. I'm just talking about regular civilians. Have you ever heard that God would say, go kill somebody? Think about that for a second. Have you ever heard that? I certainly haven't in my life. So it just really disturbs me, and these are my thoughts on it. And I think it's a shame, and the only conclusion that I can make of this is that God is God, and whether I agree with it or not, my opinion doesn't really matter because He's God. And that's interesting, and that kind of plays out in my life, because I would have liked this relationship to work out with somebody, but guess what? It didn't. And then realizing that I'm not God. And people have free will, and people interpret God the way they want to, and as we see in this Bible, But the scary thing is when they say, God said, really? God really said, And if you ever listen to preachers, they often say, this is what I believe God's saying. I don't think we really know. I think as believers, I think in our own lives we can always, we can only be sure, God said this, but that gets thrown around too much, I think, and I think it's possibly caused damage, to people. I was at a store the other day, and there was somebody that they were Hindu. I had no problem they were Hindu. I didn't care. And I was telling them about Jesus, and I said to them, would you feel uncomfortable, because they would be disowned by their family if they believe in Jesus? Do you have fear in that whole thing? And they never, they didn't really think about it. I had another friend one time that his parents were Hindu, and he became Christian, and he still lived in the house. So I think I think it all depends. The Jewish people, if they believe in Jesus, they get disowned by their families. It's really a scary thing. There needs to be a certain thing of compassion, and people can only make a decision if they really want it. And I think to scare people and use this scare tactic is really it's a sense of control and domination, and I think it never worked in my life. I believe in God because I choose to, not because I'm scared, where I'm going or where I'm not going. And there is fear for me. I mean, I'll be honest. I do get scared about that because I'm just, I'll just be honest, because there's so many people that've been to hell. You know, Padre Pio saw people going to hell. I mean, Mary Kay Baxter. And you can go on YouTube and look at, you know, people's experience, like God would take them to hell. And so when things are said like that, you know, I'd rather, you know, if that's true, you know, and for me, I believe it's true. I want to make sure where I'm going to go, you know, and have a security in that, because I know, first of all, I know I definitely will have no control over when I'm dead where I go. I mean, I can't make that decision. So the God who created me, you know, they make that decision because that's God. And I really believe in my heart that Lucifer was an angel, and when he rebelled against God, the whole thing is that I think that's people use the term ego. I think Satan is the father of lies, but the ultimate ego, because what he did, he says, I'm going to raise my throne above you, God. And God said, no, I'm God. You can't. I'm God, and I'm going to say how it goes, because I'm God. Now, nobody likes that, because if somebody lives with, you know, in a family, and they tell their children, for example, you know, don't do this, and the child fights, as the parents know, and the child doesn't like it, or the parent, or say somebody's working on a job and the boss tells them, you know, you can't do this. I mean, as people, we want to do when we want to do it, when we want to do it, how we want to do it, and what we want to do it. And if anything goes against that, we're the kind of people that would be like, well, what? You know? And so, like, there's a God that sets rules up and regulations. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense, and hey, you know what? It doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. But these are my thoughts on it, you know, and there's I hope this kind of helps people a little bit. You know, I don't really believe in well, maybe I'll talk about that some other time, but what I'm saying for today is that I just find this personally really disturbing, but I'm not God, and that's okay, and I don't have to understand this whole thing. The reason why I feel like I don't have to understand it is because I know who God is for me. And since I know who God is for me, since it's me, I'm okay with that. You know. And people ask me, well, how do you know there's a God? And it says in the Bible, ask and you shall receive. You know, seek and the door will be open. So, you know, I tell people, I'm like, why don't you ask Jesus yourself? But people perhaps don't want to give up control. But, you know, I found that in my life that when I surrender and give up control, I have peace. And I don't have to feel like I have to fight, or because I'll tell you what, it's exhausting to try to fight against it. And God is just such a blessing. And so I hope this helps people. And very interesting story. Again, I don't agree with it, but again, I'm not God. So that's it. Alright. Have a nice day. Okay.